When we move house, we expect to inherit the familiar. A new street, a new view, the small, stubborn quirks of plumbing and paint jobs, and in August of 2005, a family from New York, he a retired deputy warden from Rikers Island, she a self-described straight talker who doesn't like to lie, bought a home in Aguada in Puerto Rico on the island's northwest shoulder. Behind the back fence rose an enormous rainforest, and beyond that, the Atlantic. They expected quiet. They found something else. It was about 3 a.m. when the first sound came, like a hurricane wind going by the house, the witness said. Not the crash and tantrum of a storm, mind you, but a weird humming that penetrated the ears, as if the air had just been detuned ever so slightly. Mother and daughter went to the window. Over the trees, a disc-shaped craft slid westward, silver, ringed with dark green windows, the whole thing wrapped in a faint greenish haze. It moved as if descending toward the deep black of the rainforest and the unseen slope to the sea. They had lived under the approach to JFK for 2 decades, so they knew aircraft, and this was something else. On the 28th of April 2006, again 3 a.m., the hum began, and then the dog, Dora, erupted in the backyard. The mother switched on the yard light and looked out from the dining room. Dora lay on her back, 4 legs up in the air, motionless as if switched off. The dog was not responding to her name. Beyond the chain link, just 25 feet away, 2 figures stood in the darkness. They were short, about 3.5 feet, with large oval heads, pale grey skin, huge black slanted eyes, and the faintest suggestion of a mouth, a slit, and 2 pinholes for a nose. Their arms were narrow, almost delicate, breakable, and from the waist down she couldn't see. The fence base was a cinder block wall at about 18 inches high. The impression was of beings that had stepped forward from an illustration, a sci-fi magazine come to life. They stared at her. She stared at them. Something else pressed into her thoughts. The sense that they were listening inside her head. I'm going to wake my husband, she thought, and her feet turned not to his door, but without quite meaning to her daughter's room. And she shook the girl awake, and the 2 returned to the window. The beings were still there. They watched. The family watched back. And after a minute, the girl whispered, "Mum, I'm going back to bed. I'm scared." The mother walked her down the hall and settled her back into her room, and then came back, alone. The beings had not moved. The one nearest the dog seemed to speak without sound. "Open the door," the impression came. "Open the door to the yard." "I'm not opening the door," she thought. "You're going to open the door." It pressed back. A drowsiness fell over her, a pull. The floor drifted under her feet as she began to move towards the door. She remembers nothing else, and she woke in her bed. In the morning, her husband, who slept in the front bedroom, said he'd heard the dog barking wildly at about 3. He'd looked out from the bed, seen the dog barking towards the rainforest, and, exhausted, drifted off to sleep again. He found the back door open at 8 a.m. That dog refused food and water for days. On her left hand, the witness later noticed a circle of tiny puncture marks, faintly burning. But where had it come from? On the 1st of May 2006, just before 1 a.m., while she was on the phone in the living room, a bright light moved through the woods, so intense that it lit the house from within. She and her husband closed the louvered kitchen and dining room windows, hearts beating in their throats. Seconds later, something hit the flat concrete roof with a thud heavy enough to shake the house, as if something had landed there. They didn't go outside. They didn't call the police. They drew together in one bed and waited for the night to pass. And what do you do when people won't believe that these things have happened to you? They went to City Hall. The mayor was away. A civil defence official took their statement, promised to patrol, promised to follow up, but nobody came. They went to television, Channel 5 Mayagüez, and were gently told that such stories are dismissed here as a superstition or a hoax. They insisted they were neither. Emails were sent to local UFO groups, no responses, so they wrote off island, searching for anyone who might take them seriously. In the meantime, life contracted. Their daughter, 17 and terrified, struggled to sleep. The dog was a shadow of itself. The family's days began to orbit the hours between midnight and 4. And then on the 5th of June 2006, just before bed, the mother went for a glass of milk and crossed to the living room towards the bedroom. At the front door, behind the glass pane, a face was peering in. This one seemed older than the others. The same grey skin and large eyes, but now a mark on the forehead and a hardness in the expression the witness hadn't felt before. The two at the fence looked like little kids with serene faces, she said. This one looked sinister. She ran to wake her husband, and he grabbed a machete and charged onto the balcony. Nothing. Only the night, inky black across the trees. On the 22nd of October 2006, a 3-hour blackout rolled through Aguada. Around midnight, with the town dark and sound travelling further than light, the family stepped into their backyard, and from the rainforest came the hum, again, nearer than before. The witness called her sister, so she could hear it through the phone. Then the fear rose and they retreated indoors. You can only stand so long in the dark, listening to the sounds that suggest something is watching. On the 25th of February 2007, at about 4 a.m., from a front bedroom window, the witness saw a disc-shaped craft hovering motionless, maybe 40 meters away, and the same distance off the ground. She estimates about 30 feet, that's 9 meters across. The light inside was greenish-blue, bright enough to be silhouetting the figures at the viewing ports, figures that watched the house, and, she says, her specifically. They seemed inquisitive, passing some long rod-shaped object between them, as if some sort of testing device or enacting a procedure or routine. The craft made no sound. The sighting lasted perhaps a minute, and she ran to wake her husband and reached the window with him, and there was nothing outside. The encounters spidered through the family in small, unnerving ways. In May of 2007, the daughter sat alone in the living room at about 1 a.m. The hum burst over the roof, and a greenish-blue flash raced the length of the house, window to window, front to back, as if something low had swept past. She screamed and fled to the bedroom, shaking. In June the same year, their son, visiting from New York, watched a bright green beam blaze through his downstairs window and glass pane door, flooding the room in light for several seconds. He ran upstairs in panic and refused to sleep downstairs again. By August, Dora the dog was gone. Not dead, but gone. They searched the neighbourhood, the town, asked at houses and shops. Nothing. The family drew its own conclusion. Anything is possible now. They moved. On the 3rd of November 2007, in the new house at about 2 a.m., the witnesses watched a bluish-green neon light, no larger than a coin, slide through the window and drift across the bedroom. Her body paralysed. Shapes gathered. 5 or 6 creatures ringed the bed, short greys, one taller figure like an officer among technicians. She lost the room and she woke elsewhere, naked, on a cold stainless steel platform that floated as if supported by nothing. Arms hanging over the edges, skin pulling against the chill, she watched a long needle approach and pleaded in her thoughts for them to stop. They did not. A round metal cup, 5 inches across, pressed into her abdomen. A suction pulled, and she felt as though something inside were being drawn out. An excruciating pain. She couldn't move. She couldn't cry out. The creatures made sounds, mumbling, not language she recognized. But their mouths were not moving, and when she called them marcianos in her thoughts, they answered telepathically in Spanish. They do not like being called Martians. If they must be named, creatures would suffice. She woke in her own bed with her husband beside her. The pain in her abdomen lingered until morning. There were no marks on her body. There is another thread through this story, less dramatic than a light over the roof and the abduction of a woman by alien creatures. The witness had lived through ovarian cancer and operations on her intestine. She had endured breast cancer recurrences, the blunt routine of tests and surgeries, and hoping science can keep pace with biology. She travelled back to New York for care, where her insurance was accepted and her case was known. After the April 2006 encounter, she returned for tests and was told that, contrary to expectation, no cancer was detectable. The bleeding had stopped, the pain had vanished. I truly feel they cured me, she says. Later she noticed something moving beneath the skin of her right lower back, a small object without a scare or entry wound. She and her husband tried the magnet test they'd seen on television. However, the magnet didn't seem strong enough for them to be able to conclusively figure anything out, and the pinhole ring scars on her left hand remained as the oldest physical echo of that night in April. So what can we say with certainty here? That a family heard a sound at 3 a.m. and saw a craft none of them could reconcile with ordinary flight. That they reported visitors at the fence who spoke without speaking, and a command to open a door. We know that the back door was found to be opened at dawn. The dog fell silent and disappeared. A woman, ill for years, found herself well suddenly and didn't know whether to be grateful or angry or both. And the ignorance of a bureaucratic system that would not respond to their pleas for help. In the language of science, you would look for hypotheses that you can falsify. But in the language of human experience, nobody knows for sure what happened to this family. Aside from themselves, of course. And this case falls squarely into the contactee or abduction scenario. And the question still remains, what do they want? From the depths of the vault, this is Eerie's Vault Live. Every Friday at 9 p.m. GMT, the lines are open. UFOs, aliens, ghosts, strange creatures, time slips, encounters you cannot explain. If you've seen something unusual, if something has haunted you, followed you, or simply left you wondering, then this is your place to tell it. Call in and share your story. You can watch the show live on YouTube or stream it directly at eeriesvault.com. And if you're too shy to call, then you can email ahead of the show at eeriesvault@gmail.com and I will read your story out for you on air. That's Eerie's Vault Live, Friday nights, 9 p.m. GMT. Be part of it. The YouTube show is only a part of the vault. Beyond the broadcast is the archive. And at eeriesvault.com you'll find our growing library of case files, first-hand accounts of the unexplained, written reports from people who lived through something strange. And we need yours. If you've carried a story for years, if you've never had the chance to put it into words, and this is where it belongs. Your report will stand alongside others, building a record that may one day help us see patterns that we cannot see alone. And it's easy. Go to eeriesvault.com, open the case files page, and hit the Submit a Case button. Fill in the details and send it on its way. Because strange events pass quickly into silence unless someone records them. Don't let your story vanish. Put it in the vault. For those of you who want to go deeper, there is the Eerie's Vault Patreon. Here you'll find the evidence. Original newspaper clippings, forgotten publications, rare documents. You'll see the raw material behind the stories, and you'll gain access to exclusive videos, some filmed on location at the very places we discuss, and you'll be able to watch private follow-up videos to the cases already covered on the main channel. It's not just about watching here, it's about joining the search, and by supporting the vault, you help to keep the archive alive, help uncover more material, and help to bring these stories into the light. And if you've ever wondered what all these marks are on this map here, well, patrons get access to this interactive encounters map to peruse at their leisure. It gets updated regularly and will grow to be one of the most comprehensive encounters maps in the world. If you've ever wanted to be closer to the investigation, if you've ever wanted to see what lies behind the curtain, then Patreon is where it begins. And with numerous membership options, what are you waiting for? Head over to the vault.